What date are we live?
We are live and recording.
Okay, well, it's 6:30 p.m. on June the 4th, 2025. I'm calling this meeting of the Brookfield Planning Board to order. Let's see, we have audio recording going on, so I'd like all the members of the planning board who are present to please say your name so that we can identify you on the recording.
Steve Carmen.
Bruce Clark.
Chris Gorman.
Jeff King.
Lisa Matandi.
And Kevin Ercola. Okay, so great. Look at the agenda. First item on the agenda, we have several sets of minutes. Two of them are old ones that were reconstructed from notes and agendas on the meeting that were posted to My Town Government for those dates. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of April 22, 2019?
Yes.
Okay. Any corrections or additions, spelling errors? Okay, then can I have a motion to accept the minutes of April 22, 2019 meeting of the planning board?
I'll make a motion to accept April 22nd, 2019.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Okay. 122. Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying your name and aye.
Steve Carmen, aye.
Bruce Clark. Aye.
Chris, aye.
Jeff, aye.
Lisa Matandi, aye.
And Kevin Ercola, aye. Very good. Okay, how about the minutes from May 20, 2019? That was a public hearing for the for some zoning bylaw amendments that we had at the time. We had one person show up in the audience, and she wasn't even here for it. She's here for something entirely different.
I'll make a motion to approve the May 20th, 2019 minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying your name and aye.
Steve Carmen, aye.
Bruce Clark, aye.
Chris, aye.
Jeff, aye.
Lisa Matandi, aye.
And Kevin, aye. Okay. Okay, and then that brings us to the minutes of the April 9, 2025 meeting, which was the first part of the public hearing for the Sun Fusion special permit.
I'll make a motion for the 4/9/2025 minutes approval.
Okay. Actually, Bruce,
Well, it can't help.
you can't because you're...
Which half of the meeting you want?
Right, exactly. This is the regular part. So is there somebody else make a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay. So any discussion on that? Any corrections, questions?
I think the public comment section is a little bit brief. It might not go into detail.
What would you add?
Well, it does not mention the speakers. It does not mention their particular comments. It's sort of a very condensed summary of those opinions, but it doesn't really reflect those who spoke. And
Well,
I think typically in meetings, though, we typically do have a list of speakers, right?
Right. And the attendance list will be appended to this by reference, and it'll be kept in the file for this public hearing for the special permit. But we don't usually do attributions unless it's something that's been submitted in writing, because if they're oral comments, they can be disputed. So,
I've looked at the public comments for past public hearings, including Tassie Fuel, and there is attribution in those.
yeah.
So would you say this is more customary to just say have about 2 paragraphs to summarize a conversation that lasted perhaps more than over an hour?
Yeah, in general, yeah. I mean, because a lot of the details are available in the documents that are posted for the meeting, and if people want all the details, they can watch it now on YouTube, which we didn't have before.
Okay.
So, Other questions? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes for April 9, 2025 as submitted, please signify by saying your name and aye.
Steve Carmen abstained.
Okay.
Chris, aye.
Jeff, I.
Lisa, aye.
And Kevin, aye. All right. Okay, so it's only 6:35 or so, 6:36 so far, so we can't start the first public hearing that we have listed there. If there is no objection, I'm going to take items out of order on the agenda. Okay. All right, so let's look at the financials here. You have the expenditure report for May 22, 2025. That reflects the last voucher that we put in. And currently we are, let's see, for expenses, we have spent so far a little over $1,200, and we have about $780 left. Any questions on that? Nope. Okay. We have two vouchers for payment. One is the amount of, well, actually we have three vouchers here. One is for the payment of the stipends for the first half of 2025 to the planning board members. That's me, Chris, Lisa, Jeff, and Bruce, $250 each, for a total of $1,250 for the first 6 months of 2025, or thereabouts.
Yeah, it's for last year's technically, right?
For the last part of
Yeah.
FY25. Yeah. It's funny because they're paid out on a calendar basis, but the budget works on a fiscal year basis. Go figure. So,
So that was it for you, Bruce.
Hey, such is life.
so can I have a motion to pay this voucher for the planning board stipends?
I'll make a motion to make a payment for the expenditure for the stipends for 2024, 2025.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All those is there any further discussion on that? Then, all for those in favor, please signify by saying your name and aye.
Steve Carmen, aye.
Chris, aye.
Jeff, I.
Lisa, aye.
And Kevin, aye. Okay. All right. Second one here is a voucher for the amount of $17.40 to reimburse me for creating Mr. Carmen's nameplate, the planning board. Have a motion to pay that?
I'll make a motion to make a payment for Kevin Ercola's nameplate.
No, it's a reimburse me for Steve's nameplate.
Yeah, reimburse Kevin for Steve's nameplate.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Okay. Any other further discussion, questions? Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying your name and aye.
Steve Carmen, aye.
Chris, aye.
Jeff, I.
Lisa, aye.
And Kevin, aye. Okay, all in favor. And we have a voucher payment in the amount of $73.50 to Stonebridge Press, and this is for a legal notice, the second of the two required for the Sun Fusion special permit public hearing notice.
I'll make a motion to approve the Sun Fusion's 4/4/2025 Stonebridge Press expenditure.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying your name and aye.
Steve Carmen, aye.
Chris, aye.
Jeff, aye.
Lisa, aye.
And Kevin, aye. Okay, I think that wraps up the stuff for the accountant. What time are we getting to here? 6:41. Let's see. I'll just deal with some of the correspondence that we've had so far. There was a special permit decision from the Warren Planning Board that we received. Okay. Oh, here it is, yeah. For earth removal and crushing operations at 727 Brookfield Road. The Warren Planning Board has granted a special permit for that to go on. There is a special permit decision from the Sturbridge Planning Board to grant sign relief for 5 guys at 21 New Boston Road, so they can have 2 signs instead of 1. They have an upcoming public hearing being held by the Sturbridge Zoning Board of Appeals at their center office building on, Monday, June 16 at 6:35 p.m. And this is to hear whether or not to issue a special permit for an expansion of a residence at 92 Westwood Drive that will increase its nonconformity with local zoning. Then I had some conversations or emails to the Brookfield Highway Department concerning the Countrywood Circle private road. This is an article on the annual town meeting warrant for tomorrow. The residents, there are 5 residences on Countrywood Circle, and the residents want the town to accept this private street as a public way. As I understand it, there are some questions about the way that the road is designed and or built, but I don't know exactly all the details about that. However, what I do know is that it was built back before 2000, 1989 actually, and in 2008, our town's consulting engineer took a look at the drainage system for the road, and it was found at that time to be in less than good repair. There were small bushes growing in the detention pond into which all the storm drains were supposed to drain, and he said that in his report that he couldn't see up the pipes that were supposed to drain into the detention pond anyway. Now, if you go by that detention pond now, it no longer has bushes there. It has trees that are about 15 feet or more in height. So, I think that at least one of the issues to be asked about is does the road drain properly? During one of the big rainstorms we had recently, I took a drive up there, and I saw that a lot of the runoff on that road was just running right by the catch basins and out onto Town Farm Road and downtown Farm. So that may be an issue.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Is it not protocol for the planning board to sign off because they have the engineer? before acceptance of a private road?
I believe so. I've never had to sign off on a private road since I've been a
Yeah, I
member.
was on the board then with your wife.
Okay.
And yes, the road was, we'll just say, rejected by the town's engineer.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. So that'll be a topic of discussion tomorrow night at the town meeting.
The paperwork that you had attached, it mentioned the bond, and there was no bond. And then I was looking at the road, because I'm not from town, and there's a road there.
Yep.
But none of the paperwork said anything about, so did we get the bond for that road, or?
There's no evidence in the file that we did.
Okay, and that road just came, because it's not even the same design.
Yeah.
There's a circle in it that has nothing to do with that.
I thought I read somewhere in there that it got paid back, right? The bond,
Yeah.
back in 1989 or 90 or something.
It might have.
No, 97, they were trying to go after them for it.
Oh.
They were trying to get the money, because they wanted to build that single-family
Also,
home.
it never got paid in the first
No,
place.
it never got paid, because the town
For the
just...
town to pay it back.
Yeah, the town approved the first home because it wasn't on that road.
Oh, okay.
It was attached, it was the side of it.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I was trying to follow and understand, but the road's not even the same design, so I don't understand how that even...
Yeah, well, there were a lot of design changes there. In early 1997, it was approved for 3 or 5 lots on a cul-de-sac. And then, like a month later or so, yeah, that was in March 97. And in May 97, suddenly the developer came back with a completely different plan to put in a manufactured home community that had 30 units. Now that didn't fly. So it's had a colorful history. So,
I think the planning board has to stand strong together on this, though.
Yeah.
Because this isn't the only subdivision in town that has incomplete road issues that would like acceptance by the town.
Sure. And we do hear that about one road or another from time to time at annual town meetings. I think it would be reasonable to ask the homeowners there. I don't know if they have an official homeowners association, or they're just a loose association of them, but to have them fix the drainage system so that it can be shown to work.
Yep.
I mean, it is a private street, and that was part of their, whether they realized it or not, as part of their ownership in that road and that development. So,
Was there an approval to the new development that's there since the 2000 time period? Was there an actual approval? Or did they kind of just always...
no, I think the one from early 97 that showed like 3 or 5 lots was the one they did, and they may have divided a couple of those lots to get 5 from 3, but otherwise that was the way it was left, at least according to the documents that we have here. And I did try and find some more information on the Registry of Deeds site, but I didn't find anything that told me any more than what we already had. So, but yeah, so I communicated what information we had to the highway department, so that they would have something to go on anyway in their assessment of the street. And then Mr. Huss, who had been on the agenda last month for a consultation about a self-storage facility proposal, I hadn't heard from him, so I emailed him. Didn't hear him back from him by email, so I had his cell phone number. I called him, and he said it's kind of on hold right now because there's a question about some wetlands on the property that he has to he has to deal with first. So that's where that is. So I told him to get back to us if he intends to go ahead with the project. So what time is it
It
now?
looks like those homes were built in 2004, 2005.
2014.
Cottonwood,
Uh-huh.
or Countrywood,
Country.
because that's what Mass GIS has.
Oh, okay. Very good.
That's a start date if they want to. I mean, because there should be something that's stamped of the new approval, because the one we have is not stamped, and it's not.
Yeah, you would think, we just don't have it.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah.
That's interesting.
All right. So it's now 6:50, and I'd like to start with our first public hearing of the evening. That would be for Mr. Fisher, special permit for an accessory business, crafts workers shop at 4 Martin Road. Let me just read the, here we go. There's a notice of the public hearing. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, and the provisions of the Brookfield zoning bylaws, Section 4, Use Regulation Table, Section 3, K and Q, Section 5, Accessory Uses, Section D, Signs, Section 9, Parking and Loading Regulations, and Section 10, Sign Regulations, and Section 13C, Special Permits. The Brookfield Planning Board will hold a public hearing on an application from Jack Fisher for a special permit for a crafts workers shop with retail sales and associated signage located at the place of his residence, 4 Martin Road, Brookfield, Massachusetts, in a rural residential district. The hearing will take place on Wednesday, June 4, 2025, in the Banquet Hall of Brookfield Town Hall, 6 Central Street, Brookfield, Mass., starting at 6:45 p.m. or as soon thereafter as can be heard. Meeting details and agenda will be posted at www.mytowngovernment.org/O1506. Copy of the application may be inspected at the office of the town clerk at Brookfield Town Hall during normal business hours. Kevin Arklow, Chair, Brookfield Planning Board. Okay, Mr. Fisher, welcome. We have your application, which we had deemed complete last time, and have the proof of mailing so that everybody who was supposed to be informed has been, or at least we've tried to get a hold of them. So, what'd you like to tell us about your project?
Well, it's just going to be a small retail shop. It's only 170 square feet in and out building on the property. I make primitive furniture, sell candles, things like that. It's a small operation, I guess. There won't be any, I know there was a question about deliveries and things like that. Anything that comes would be UPS or FedEx. I really don't buy a whole lot of product from somebody else, so that really isn't an issue as far as deliveries and things.
Okay. And how many parking spaces will you have there, too?
In my driveway, I have 4 in the driveway.
Okay.
I really don't expect to have any more than 2 or 3 people at a time at the shop. It's,
Almost. Okay. And let me see. Also for signage, you have a couple of signs indicated that you want to have. One is down on the north side of your property.
it would be down, like, just as you start to come up Marth Road. Just
Okay.
where the road forks off. Actually, right next to Walker Homestead sign.
Okay.
They have one on both sides. I'll only have one on the left side. As you start up the road. Then the other one would be just at the end of my driveway.
Okay. All right. And so,
I think I noted the dimensions on there.
yeah, 29 by 32 for the one that's down facing facing Long Hill, and the one by your house is, what, 28 by 21 and a half. And let's see what the
it's slightly over 6
It's slightly over 6 for the one,
for the left one,
for the
yeah.
left one.
6.4, I think it
Yeah.
is.
Okay.
6.44.
Yeah. Could you make it a little smaller so it can be,
Sure.
yeah, so it'd be,
It's supposed to be under 6, square.
yeah, yeah, 6 max. And then the, okay. All right.
Yeah, the zoning bylaws, section 10A, it refers to the sign size right there. Maximum of 6 square feet.
There were signs that I had at my other shop when I lived in West Brookfield, so I was just open up and reuse them. But I can shorten it up.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any questions from board members about this?
Yeah, I have a question about the number of signs. So I believe by that same zoning bylaw, it permits one sign, not over 6 square feet in area.
Yep.
Is it permissible to have multiple signs?
We have not allowed that.
And on the other side, Walker Homestead does have 2 signs that are right at that juncture, that junction of Martin Road and Long Hill Road.
Yeah, I don't know the history of that, if those were pre-existing before this regulation went into effect or not.
I would think the one on the house is more of an ornamental accent to the house / signage.
Yeah,
I mean, just compared to an actual sign, that's a
Right.
sign.
Yeah,
I mean-
there's already a sign, there is a sign there already
Yeah.
in my driveway.
Yeah, the one on his house, if it's on his house, I mean, that's on his property, that's not, I think could be more accent to the property compared
would
to
you,
a sign.
would you be putting like 4 Martin Road on that one too, or just a 4? Just
On
to,
the sign, on the...
by your house?
Yeah.
By your house, yeah. So, just so that people know where to turn, because it is a little tricky.
Yeah, so it's an address, the one near your house, right?
Yeah.
Anybody from the public here want to comment on this particular application? Yes, sir.
I was wondering about accessibility, especially in the winter. Accessibility in winter, I just noticed
Yeah. It's steep. What's your issue? I'm not sure I understand.
just any kind of if there was any concern about people who aren't familiar with the area.
There's the Walker Homestead business too, up at the top of the hill too. So I mean, they would be in the same straight as far as that goes.
This is at the beginning, right?
Yeah, first house.
Right at the beginning of
Yeah.
Martin?
Yeah, it's not like there's a lot of traffic. If there were more traffic involved here, I think I might be more concerned here, but this is incidental. You might get a little more business on days where Walker is doing a show or something, just because there would be more traffic, but yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm going to ask the same question I asked before. At what point are there so many business permits granted in rural residential areas that the rural residential area is no longer a rural residential area?
That's a good question. That's a good question. This was a posted meeting, and I assume that the neighbors saw it, and nobody here from the neighborhood is commenting on it. I think, Mr. Ayers, you're probably closest by, right on Long Hill.
I think it's great.
You think it's great, see, so.
I think it's great.
Yes, sir.
Actually, my father, he lives down the street, Bottom Hill, property, it's right adjacent to the sign. So there is someone close there.
Oh, okay, all right. Is that on Long Hill or
Yeah, 37 Mile Road.
37? Okay, so across the street.
Another question was, yeah, the signage, there's two signs down for our homestead, and someone mentioned it's a same precedent to say for, zoning, et cetera, businesses. The signs there, who owns that property? Where Walker Homestead sign is now.
I don't know. I don't know. That's another question. Yeah. But
I think that the Suji's own the Walker Homestead.
yeah, he was asking about where the property that the sign is. It may be on the town
Looks like town
right away.
land.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does appear to be.
I think it's just past my line. The one on the left side is just out of the hill. I think that's just past
Yeah.
where my
Yeah.
property ends.
Yeah.
The one on the other side, I'm not sure. I don't know who owns that.
38 stops before the roads kind of, it stops right at the turn from Martin Road. So that whole peninsula is town road from Mass GIS.
Sir, did you sign in, sir?
No, sorry. Me?
Yeah.
Sorry, full disclosure now, my apologies. I'm actually on East Brookfield planning board. I short up my parents' house for some help.
Okay.
So
To help me out, I have my tractor here, so I bought my second year's. I'm going to make sure everything goes just all right.
Okay. Well, just so we can identify you for the minutes as to who had comments. What is your concern relative to the property at 37 Long Hill in terms of, if anything, in terms of accessibility and inclement weather for 4 Martin Road?
Well, as far as accessibility goes, just one of the things some don't try to make a big deal out of necessarily, but we know there's been issues over the years with cars getting up there. And, I don't know how large a crowd there would be, presumably not that many people there, but just from a public safety standpoint. With the signage, just like someone already stated, there are 2 signs there already. How many more signs will there be? How big they're going to be, that sort of thing.
Yeah, this would be a business that is accessory to a residence, and it's not an extensive use, and it's something that's commonly done in central Massachusetts. They have a craftsworkers shop or woodworkers shop on the property as an accessory to a residence, and the building that it's going to be in already exists, so there's no building that's going to be going on either. Your remark about the signage is well taken, but it's the Walker Homestead sign has been there for as long as I can remember. I've only been in town for about 30 years, so this is in 30 years, if we've just increased the number of signs by 1. It doesn't seem like it's going to proliferate anytime soon. But I take your point, and your point too.
And this sign is on his property.
Yeah,
It's on his property.
it's on his property. So
So, the other one, like, we can't go in and rip the signs down. I'm not going to say anything about the other sign, but your sign's on your property, and it's, 1 sign's allowed.
yeah,
And it's a good spot. I don't see it being in the way of anybody getting onto traffic from off that road, because it's to the right. So you should be able to see up the road from that angle.
I've actually cleared the side of the road myself, all the way up my property, to make visibility better, to go up and down the road, because the growth on the side of the road.
Yeah, it cuts
the
it.
road. I actually have mowed down my side, and I did the other side, clipped all the stuff back on the other side so that nothing hangs in the road.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I have a comment about
Yeah.
the second Walker Homestead sign. So, as we've noted, there are two signs on there. One of them does appear to be very close to your property, if not on your property. Is that your impression from where it's located? I'm talking about, I took a photograph when walking by today. It's this one here.
Yeah.
That's in the woods.
Yeah.
Would you say that's fairly close to your property?
Yeah.
Now, where do you put up, I don't know if the other board members have driven by to seen the sign, but this is the one that's very close to the corner of Martin Road and Long Hill Road.
Where is it compared to this?
It's to the left, right, a little bit more that way. It seems like it's more recent because it's not on Google Maps.
2024.
But this is from
Near
today.
there?
Yes, it's near there.
Well, if it's near there, that's not his property.
Yeah, I don't think it's on my property. I think it's just before.
And, yeah, going by Mass GIS. Mass GIS isn't exact, but his stops way before that corner on Mass GIS. And then it's like 15 per se off the road, if not more. Because that corner, the right of way is further than what it is.
Okay.
But
Yeah, but we're not here to...
yeah, we're not here for the
judge.
walker.
No.
Right.
That's right. Sure, okay. Any other questions relative to this project?
Will there be hours that you're open, or is it by appointment?
No, it's going to be hours. I hope to be open Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Only part of the day, each day. Only like,
1 to 5, 1 to 4.
yeah, yep.
So just by appointment, so it's not a big deal as far as that goes. Okay, good. So the signs just basically point people towards you when they're looking to keep their appointment. All right. So any other questions, comments? Going once, going twice? Okay, then there's no objections. We'll close the public hearing. We'll just talk about whether this application meets the threshold for approval of special permits. Okay, so a special permit for a use shall be issued only if the board finds that the following conditions are met. The use will not be detrimental to the public good or the character of the town of Brookfield. Any disagreement with that? That the use will be in character with the existing uses in the district. Okay, we've talked about one other example there. The use will not create a significant traffic hazard or create excessive congestion on major or minor streets. Okay. That sufficient off-street parking will be provided to serve such use. 4 spaces, doesn't think that you'll have more than 2 or 3 people at a time. The use will not be offensive, dangerous, or harmful to abutters or to the general public due to excessive noise, odor, vibration, dust, ash, smoke, water pollution, or for any other similar reasons. Doesn't sound like it.
It's just retail.
Yeah, and creation of primitive furniture. That the use will be sufficiently landscaped and situated to buffer it from abutting properties and existing uses and from all roads. It's already landscaped, basically. Nothing's going to change there. And that the use can be adequately serviced by water, sewage disposal facilities, and other necessary utilities, and be efficiently provided with public services. Again, it's not going to require anything more than he already has in those terms. All right. Any, well, we can specify the hours which he has specified by appointment on those 3 days. Any other conditions that we should add to this? Nothing crosses my mind here.
The size of the sign.
Oh, the size of the sign, that's good. Yeah, we'll just specify that 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 the sign, I would say, identifying the business. There shall be a sign for the residents also.
Yeah, I think we should be mindful of the definition of sign in this case.
Yeah, okay. So maybe just a residence sign that's perhaps in the same style, so that will make a connection without it being. Yep. Okay.
Just so we're clear on this, that's okay. Any object device display visible to persons not located on where such object, etc., is located, which is used to identify, display, or attract attention to an object, person, institution, organization, business, product, service, event, location by any means, including words, letters, figures, design, symbols, fixtures, colors, or illumination. So if we want to be truthful to the zoning bylaw, I don't think we should suggest that it's okay to insinuate the signs are connected. Listing that it's for the residents for clarification, I think is good.
Okay.
But not to connect the signs, but to connect the address, I think would be sensible.
The first sentence? No, in what you just said.
One very long sentence. It was here from the zoning bylaw definition.
I look at it as a giant address.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any object device display visible to the persons not located on the lot. Yeah.
Put a mailbox under it.
Yeah.
So should we say,
I think we just ignore it. No, in fact, it's not a sign. It doesn't have to be approved or anything. It's his address. It's a Rusty Rooster. That's an address. It might look fancy, it might be homemade, it might be better than mine, but it's his address on his house, on his place of business. He has every right to have an address card that looks as nice as he wants it. That's what I think. I don't think it's a sign.
So the name of the business would not be.
Oh, it would.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Rusty Rooster. You got the law firms right on the wall. Also got the sign outside. Two signs, or is that an address to the law firm? Right? If you walk up, you see the dental office. Says, open this time. That's not a sign. It's a door ornament. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
It might look nice, but it's still the Rusty Rooster, and it's the address. If you put your phone number on there, maybe that would be a little too much. You put your email on there, that's too much.
So that's the previous, it's like, my intention was to put this and the address underneath it.
I think that's the way we handle it, and we don't even need to address it because it's not in our purview.
Okay.
He's not here for that. He's not here to get an approval on his address.
In line with that, I think we can approve the one sign.
Okay. And all right, that's what we'll write in. The one sign. And we won't say anything else about signage.
So it's just a sign on Long Hill, down the face of Long Hill.
You're allowed one sign. So if that is the sign, then that's my understanding.
Address on.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other conditions? All right. Well, hearing no other, are you ready to vote? All right. All those who are in favor of granting Fisher for a liquor shop located at 4 Mile North Brookfield. Well, may I have a motion to do so?
I'll make a motion to approve the Jack Fisher Rusty Rooster at Martin Road proposal as amended.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of the proposal, please signify by saying your name and aye.
Steve Carmen, aye.
Chris, aye.
Jeff, aye.
Lisa, aye.
And Kevin, aye. Okay. All right, so I will write up this decision document. We'll file it with the town.
Oh, okay, I just kept reading the document.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what-
sorry.
Where you got it from?
Yeah.
The name's gonna be Lusty Seeds.
Okay.
Keep repeating them
Yeah.
Right.
here, so.
Okay, no, it's going to be what was on your application,
Yes.
which was you. Okay, so I'm going to write this up. We're going to sign it, and then file it with the town clerk. And once the town clerk receives it, anybody who wants to dispute the findings, the award, has 20 days to do that, after which you're free and clear to continue without worries. All right. Okay, thank you. Okay. Oh, yes, yeah, we'll send you a copy, and we'll have a copy here for people to inspect at the town clerk's office. All right. Okay, that brings us to 7:18, and I will declare the continued public hearing for Sun Fusions Incorporated special permit for a marijuana cultivation facility at 6 Molasses Hill Road open at 7:15, 7:18 rather.
Message down to Jeff and
Yeah, Paul. Okay, what about Paul real quick? The A&R?
The A&R. You're gonna pause this?
It's going to go on for a while, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have the application form?
Yeah.
Okay, and all that? All right, we'll put that on hold for just a sec.
It is an A&R, so I
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, this is approval not required application for Sandra Renaud and Joseph Levesque, who is the surveyor here. This is at 28 Long Hill Road. And,
Application here.
Yeah.
The Felton Shack.
okay,
I think it's 50, what, is it $50?
yes, and you're creating one lot?
Yes. One lot.
Okay. Okay. So this is actually a 5 Town Farm Road. That's the actual address.
It's the mailing address, yes. Right at the intersection of Town Farm and Long Hill Road. The Renards currently own like a 14-acre property. It's kind of like an L shape, has frontage on both roads. They have the house on the south side of the lot, and then on the north side, adjacent to Long Hill Road, there's an existing house. I believe one of their relatives just passed away, so what we did was create a conforming building lot so we could put that structure on its own lot and now make the entire property conforming with the local zoning bylaws.
Yeah, yeah.
There's over 200 feet of frontage, over 70,000 square feet. It's in the rural residential district. So we exceed all of that. And then the remaining land with the house and barn where the Renards live still has like 13 and a half acres and 800 feet of frontage.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that might be what you wanted to do here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the mustard-colored ranch house.
Correct.
Yeah.
It looked like a carport on the side.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay, so we've got the locus here, compass rose. Place for signing, owner's name, and intended address, 28 Long Hill Road. Plan and book identification. Signature, scale 1 inch equals 20 feet. Let's see.
Yeah, she's just cutting the pork chop out, right?
Yeah, basically.
The distance here, I'm assuming, is over 40. The piece that you cut it out.
Yeah, it keeps going.
Yeah, okay.
And that's still connected to the,
Yeah, to the back.
this is still a little bit of a dog leg.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So it's drawn to scale. Good. Okay. Yeah, looks good to me. Anybody have any questions?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, can I have a motion to endorse the plan, this plan for 28 Long Hill Road as not requiring approval under the subdivision control law or A&R?
I'll make a motion to approve the lot at 20, is it 28?
28.
28 Long Hill Road, as submitted for an A&R.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying your name and aye.
Steve Carmen, aye.
Chris, aye.
Jeff, aye.
Lisa, aye.
And Kevin, aye. Okay, so let's endorse these.
Stack them.
In double after. You know, just stacking
Those three out right there.
We need a
No, we don't. The only one we have to worry about is the Mylar.
Oh, okay. No. So just go ahead and sign it.
Yep.
This does make it easier. Should we sign the Mylar too?
With the Mylar pen.
Okay. Yeah. Line it up with the others.
There you go. You're welcome. Good work. Take care. Thank you.
Not that we need it, but.
Yeah. All right, super. Where'd you go? That one?
Well, next year.
Mine. That's mine.
Was it? All right. Okay, and this. Okay, we'll hang on to this for a moment. All right. Okay, it is now 7:29. Let us continue with the continued public hearing for Sun Fusions Incorporated. All right. So when we last left this, we had some questions from the board. You had some submissions that you'd like to present to us?
Yes, you had questions about chlorine dioxide. And I prepared some boards which people are welcome to go through, and you've got copies. And I'll tell you, this is the greenhouse, and the CO2 company has indicated where they're going to put their valves, their sensors to test any air that's leaving through the vents, through the fans. We indicated green. Blue are the actual valves, which are releasing the CO2 as needed. And then there are sensors and devices that feed back to the machine the levels in the building. So if it rises above the desired level, it automatically stops, and when it falls below the desired level, it comes back on. So it just maintains stasis like a thermostat. And if it goes too high, if it goes past a set point, which is usually about half of the OSHA limit, then it shuts down, alarms go off, and there's a problem, which is usually remedied by a reset online.
Yep.
As I understand it, I haven't actually got this system, but that's what happens according to them. So this diagram here kind of lets you know a little bit about, that is the actual floor plan of the head house. Yeah, I don't want to hit you, Steve.
Get out of your way.
Thank you. These are no good in your eyes. So there are again controls and sensors, valves that open and close. This is the actual unit, which is located next to the electrical room and the utility room, and then it pipes out to the various valves and releases in the facility. And I'll just flip this over quickly to show the head house. Because both buildings are treated with the CO2 to kill odor. So any volatile organic compounds or volatile sulfuric compounds that come in contact are destroyed, and then the CO2 is also destroyed in the transaction. It's at the molecular level. So again, you've got your outlets here, and I would probably say my suggestion would be probably to add another one, just because if manufacturing were approved, that would be extraction. It would happen in one place, and I would think it would be a good idea to have another. But it's a work in progress. This is their proposal. We can add to valves. We can not take anything away from it, but we can always add to it, and some of it has to do with the fine-tuning once it's up. If you find it's inadequate in any way, you add more. The system I'm investing in can do an area 5 times as large as this, so there won't be any capacity problem.
Again, this indicates the valve locations. This is the place that was indicated on this floor plan where the actual machine is located. And then the rest is done by computer sensors feeding back to the controls on the machine to tell it how much to release and when to stop releasing, and if anything goes wrong, to shut down the system, subject to being troubleshot online and restarted, rebooted. And that would be a thing. I mean, that would shut it down entirely until it was reset. So that could be, 5 minutes, that could be an hour, it could be longer, during which time you would shut down the exhaust fans as well, because your ClO2 is going to dissipate and you don't want to release odor. So as soon as that comes back online, obviously it continues killing odor, and it has a residual effect, which takes you through a certain amount of time. If there were a catastrophic failure, then I would be in the same position as pretty much any other cannabis facility without the protection of ClO2. So we have contracted with constant monitoring, 24-hour monitoring, and quarterly visits to tune up the system, test the system, and make sure everything's online so we don't experience a failure. In the case of a failure, there are backup machines available which can be there within 24 hours. So that would be, unpleasant for us, obviously, but it's not something that the company reports happens a lot, because there's a tremendous amount of maintenance and there's constant feedback through the internet to make sure things are functioning as they're supposed to. So the other side of this is just kind of I'd call it propaganda. I think this is taken from their sales material because it lists payoff as one of its points, which we're not interested in. So it's just an explanation, really, of what ClO2 is being used for and why it's being used. The amount of oxidizer, which is the ClO2 in each room, is easily measured by sensors. Odor-causing organic materials are broken down by oxidizers, which are also consumed. When the amount of oxygen in the room is at a minimum, a valve opens, letting more oxygen into the room. When the oxygen increases to the target level, the valve closes, and cycling the dioxide between low and target ensures minimum odor. And the result of using chlorine dioxide is the safe elimination of odor. And I would just add that an important aspect of this is that the safety component, that if the ClO2 were to approach a level that was unhealthy for people, or actually half the level of what OSHA allows, then the whole system would shut down, subject to being restarted. And again, that is expected to be a rare occurrence if it happens at all. I'm told, and again, anecdotal, I don't have evidence, but I'm told by these professionals who've been doing this for quite a while that is a rare occurrence indeed, but it is effective. You will get alarms, you'll get strobes, you'll get evacuation. So not to minimize the impact of a potential overexposure, it could happen, and that's why we install all these sensors to make sure it can't happen. As soon as it hits half the OSHA safe level, the whole thing shuts down and has to be reset. To put it in perspective, you don't smell ClO2 when it's being used at proper levels. You wouldn't smell it at the OSHA limit of 100 parts per billion, but at 200, 250 you would. It would smell like a swimming pool, and you'd know you were in trouble. You shouldn't, you're in as much trouble as you would be sitting in a swimming pool for 8 hours. You wouldn't want to do it. But that's why we install the safety thing. As far as traveling, it travels no distance, so even if there were an occurrence, it would shut down and it would dissipate outside of the building rather quickly if any of it got outside the building, because it has a half-life that's measured in milliseconds, really. It's unlikely that it can travel any distance at all, because it'll meet a nitrogen compound. It'll meet something in the air and just consume itself. So the other point I wanted to make, someone had brought up concerns about chemicals. There are no chemical licensing requirements with this. It's the sodium chloride is the active ingredient, which is electrolyzed. It comes as a powder, and it's electrolyzed to form ClO2, and at no time does the machine produce more than 1.5 ounces of it, and it's less potent than pool shock. So there's exposure, to chlorine hypochlorite, sodium hypochlorite, or sodium chloride actually, and it would be like being exposed to pool shock, so don't do it. And that's about all I've got on sodium chlorite and ClO2, which is state-of-the-art for odor control. There is no better way to control odor. There is no more effective way.
And I think the other question we had was, with this, is there any danger of explosion or fire?
Yes. No.
No.
Yes and no. There is a danger of explosion. If you concentrate ClO2 beyond 10%, you can have an explosion. The explosion would be limited by the amount of ClO2. So only that which is in the machine would be subject to explosion, and only about 1.5 ounces of chemicals, so not enough to cause a great deal of damage. However, it would not cause fire. It's not flammable. It's not an explosion associated with fire. It's an explosion associated with the chemical reaction, which is like a balloon blowing up too far. It's going to pop. It's going to blow. But it's not going to cause fire or be flammable. So yes, it can explode. No, it won't explode. And it's worthy of noting that the concentrations we use are on the order of a couple of millionths of a percent. The only place it could ever concentrate enough to be explosive would be in the machine, the generator itself, in the room, in the utility room. And there are alarms there too. If it ever got to half that level, it would automatically shut down. So there are safety devices to prevent even that small explosion. That's not something they report having had happen.
I think this was part of your question, Chris. Does that answer what you wanted to know?
Yeah, no, I like the plans. It has some set up by somebody that's got a stamp on it.
Where's the stamp?
I thought
No, the plan is still not stamped.
was
but the
letter was, right?
Which is unrelated to the chlorine dioxin we're talking about.
Correct. The chair stated at the last meeting that he did not require stamps on the company's plans, just wanted to see a stamp on some engineering, which...
Yeah, at least it's provided by an engineer. I'm satisfied with that to a level. This is, like, we're not engineers to design this system. If the guy submits something and the CCC is going to approve it as well, I'm fine with something like this. I have no problem with the chlorine. I think that's an acceptable. It's obviously new, but I don't begrudge new stuff. So I saw his paperwork for this, which is understandable.
Yeah, that is stamped by a registered architect.
I still think you're lacking. No, I do. I mean, we kind of ask for information on the process by an engineer. There's nothing here. The process by an engineer.
The process regarding what?
The chlorine, the use of chlorine dioxide, ClO2. There's nothing from the manufacturer saying, this is what we produce, this is what we do for a living, here's our engineer who says it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to that point.
I thought that's what we were getting tonight.
Mm-hmm. I'm participating in the discussion.
I'm going to have to renew my objection for the record.
Okay.
I thought that's what we were getting tonight was, you do have it for the lights, for the shades, for the shading. But
I'm not sure I understand.
ClO2, you say it's a pump, it's a generator, but where's the, no, I understand it's on your print. I understand it's on your print, but I thought we were going to get some documentation that XYZ manufacturing builds these things, and here's my engineer, their engineer that says it works.
Are you asking for the name of the company that would manufacture?
Yes, I thought that's what you were bringing in tonight. A manufacturer's presentation about this particular odor removal system.
That's what I got from them. They're not
according to them, they don't get asked for that a lot, but I told them, put together everything you have so I can help satisfy the, the desire to understand it better. So they sent me everything they had. That's about as technical as it gets. It's a pre-made machine that you feed.
So I know it's not as technical, because there's a brochure or something out there that they try to sell this to somebody.
Right.
And they...
Is that what you want, sales material? Because...
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. I want something from a manufacturer that says, this is what we do for a living, and...
Not the sales tool. We want the expert. We want the expert to tell us this is what it does.
Just so I understand, is there a specific question? I mean, I hear you asking for an expert, but is there a specific question that hasn't been answered about what this is?
I don't think it's real clear as to how much odor is given off into the air. I see a lot of I see a lot of probably assumptions, but there's no expert saying that, here's the level of odor that's being given off.
So I think the approach that the applicant is taking in regards to this is, we heard this board refer to carbon filters as the gold standard for odor control. What the applicant is proposing is going above and beyond that. As the letter from the architect says, that there won't be any unfiltered air being discharged from the facility. And what the applicant is doing is not only having the filters in place, but is putting the CLO2 system in to neutralize the odors before they could even go through the filters, is the idea. And so I guess I'm still not sure what...
Well, there's a company that you're hiring to put this system in. Bring that company in to talk about it.
Can't do it. It's an Australian company, one location.
But they're going to be installing it, so at some point they're going to be here.
Wait in line until they're able to do it, because I'm on a long line of people, including microchip processing companies, hospitals, nursing homes. They've got plenty of work, and there's only one or two companies in the world that do it. So I'm at the back of that line, and if you're more comfortable with carbon technology, I can follow the CCC guidelines and simply say to you, we'll do everything the state requires, and then it is what it is. It's like everybody else.
That's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid the everybody else because we don't want the odor.
But
right?
we're doing that much and then going forward.
David,
with this.
I understand what you're getting at, but at our last meeting, we asked you for documentation. This letter from this engineer written to you says you will be providing documentation on chlorine dioxide. All you did is show us how it's going to be set up. I'm sorry.
I understand, sure.
No
problem.
I don't have a problem with any of it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stand pat. I've provided what I need to provide, and the CCC talks about odor control, and you have to follow their guidance, and I'll follow that to the letter.
No, we don't. They set the minimum. We can go beyond that. And you provided us with something that's beyond. All we're doing is asking for the documentation for it.
I'm not sure that you say documentation, I'm not sure what you're imagining necessarily exists. If you want sales materials, perhaps that could be provided.
I would think that the company must have some type of sales report, some type of engineering that says this particular piece of equipment achieves this. That's what it does. And it's fantastic at odor control versus coming out of the people that want the facility, someone who has to stand behind what they manufacture. That's what I'd like.
The sales pitch is on the other side of the card. It says, everything they say to you is like, people know what it is. It's kind of like one of those products that you know what it is or you don't know it exists. And in a very niche industry of destroying odor, these people are the gold standard.
Then why can't we get something that...
Go to the website. It's all, everything they want to sell you is there. I didn't try to sell you the system. I just wanted to try
No, you're not even showing it to us. That's my problem
I
here.
understand.
Well, the diagrams are the system. And I'll just note this is a technology, although it's not commonly used yet in the cannabis industry, it's commonly used in other industries. This is not a novel technology for odor control.
Then how do we know it works?
Because it's used in all sorts of facilities.
But I would like the manufacturer in some form of paperwork to tell us that.
They wouldn't have a business if they didn't tell you that. That's exactly what they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you it works.
But David, you're not the business for this.
I understand. I think I've made the best submission I can make on this particular issue. If you want us to stick with carbon filtration, which is what the state requires, and all they require, I mean, we could, do that. I don't want to do that.
I think, to put some perspective on this, I don't believe that there is any way that an applicant could absolutely prove to you or guarantee that all odor would be eliminated. I don't think that this is a forum where that could be done, and I think it would be unreasonable for this board to expect that. And in fact, the zoning bylaws don't require it. What they require is that there be a finding that the facility is designed in a way to minimize adverse effects such as odor. Now, obviously, what exactly minimize adverse effects means is
Right.
I guess, up to the board's
Because
judgment.
we need the definition on minimizing adverse effects. What does that mean?
Right. But what it doesn't say is that the applicant has to, for instance, prove beyond a reasonable doubt that zero odor will be released from the facility. I don't think that would be possible for us to prove here.
No, I agree. We just want to know how much.
Well, I don't know that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it can be quantified, and I don't know if the numbers, if they could be quantified, would be meaningful to you. I think the point is that Centfusions is proposing an additional layer of odor control beyond the carbon filtration, beyond the setbacks, beyond the position relative to the prevailing winds, beyond the trees bordering the property, beyond the enclosed growing structure. There's this additional layer of odor neutralization using chlorine dioxide. We're not going to stand here and say that we guarantee no odors. I don't know that anyone can make that assertion. But what I can tell you, what I can assert, is that the town has remedies if there are problems, right? So if this board were to find that the facility was designed to minimize adverse effects of odors and granted the special permit and the facility got licensed by the CCC and became operational, and then there were odor problems, there's no pass on the odor problem just because a special permit was granted.
Right.
An odor problem could well be deemed a violation of the special permit. It would be deemed a violation of the host community agreement, as well as potentially subjecting Centfusions to other legal claims.
Yeah.
So, the documentation about CLO2 is not the end-all be-all about the question of whether the facility is designed to minimize the adverse effects of odor.
What we really are trying to do here is trying to get some idea of how much of a problem this might be so that we don't have to rely on the after-the-fact remedies that will be in place, definitely. Ms. Lepak, you had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, the easiest way to do that is...
Would you like a microphone so that we can hear you?
The easiest way for him to do that is just to ask the company for a couple of references of their clients, and then you can contact their local boards and see if it's been a problem. I mean, it's not that hard. He's to his point, like, he's not going to be able to give you all the ins and outs of the technology, and I wouldn't rely on a company to just say, oh, it works. Like, the way you prove it works is find out who they are in business with and do a review. Ask for, you wouldn't hire somebody without checking references, so just do that.
Have you had any ask for or received any references from this company for satisfied or unsatisfied?
I think I've only flown to California to actually
Right.
for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get just a clarification? Is it the position of the board that any applicant for cannabis must go beyond the CCC's requirements in order to satisfy the process?
Well, I think the CCC requirements are a good starting point, but it's to the benefit of the applicant to provide as much information as possible, because we're not experts in design and operation of cannabis facilities, and by your admission, neither are you. So this would be useful to have somebody who is a user and possibly has technical knowledge and experience in this to render an opinion of their experience with the product.
Is this approved by CCC? Is this in like approval for smell mitigation?
They don't.
The CL02?
This is not the type of technology that requires CCC approval.
No, I was just asking, do they look at it as like, they approve the use of it in the facility? They have no...
Oh, I mean, it's not prohibited.
It's not prohibited.
But there's no specific regulation that addresses this particular type of...
It's just cost prohibitive, so most people are not going to want to install it. I would like to just make one observation. Maybe we don't like our bylaw, but our bylaw allows outdoor growing. And I'm not sure what kind of odor control measures you would be able to apply to that.
Yeah.
I think what you submitted is a good starting point. I don't want you to come back and resubmit more stuff time and time again. I feel like we're spinning his wheels on the submission with what he has. I think we look at it as what he has is what he has, and we just move forward on that. I wish there was more, but I at least know they put in some engineered effort.
And I'm not refusing more, to be clear.
Yeah.
I'm just pointing out that on the spectrum of stink, outdoor growing is 100.
I agree with you.
Indoor is 80%.
Totally agree with you on that.
And this is probably what I'm told, 99 to 100. That's the range they're in. That's what they advertise. That's what they shoot for, not just in the cannabis industry. It's just a chemical reaction. It destroys the odor molecule. Not much more to say. You know, someone could write you a letter explaining that, you know, the chloride comes in contact with an electric charge and it becomes ClO2 and then it gets pushed through into the, and they can tell you all sorts of things to get you to spend $250,000. I'm sure they'll be happy to tell you it's wonderful. I, on the other hand, although I've not done one of these, have spent the last 2 years researching it, so I have a little bit of experience with it. And I assure you that I wouldn't go forward without it because it would be a nightmare. I wouldn't do a normal cannabis facility in this town. This town has people in it that are just dead set against cannabis. And I'm a little tired of arguing with that. We have a bylaw that was hashed out. The law exists. Massachusetts made it legal, and this town adopted a bylaw. So I just want to be reasonable about the whole thing. I feel like there's no further I could go to make this less likely to smell. Okay. Unless I enclosed it in a factory-type setting, which I'm not interested in.
I have one other question.
They smell. North Brookfield
They're not
smells.
spending money on that?
Yeah.
There you go.
You know where I'm coming from. I'm just, you know.
If you didn't do the ClO2 system, would your setup pass CCC approval?
Sure.
Okay.
What's the name of the company?
Affinity.
Affinity?
So you are going above and beyond.
Where? This should be the standard, and in 10 years it will be. There's so much ridiculous conflict about cannabis. You know, it's like the one thing that always starts the fight is the smell. So eliminate it. And people aren't doing it because they're not being required to do it. And they don't want to spend money. They'll spend $20 million on a factory, but they won't spend a couple $100,000 on this, which would eliminate the odor. I've been there. I've been inside a 2-acre greenhouse full of 9-foot plants and not smelled a thing but spring air. It works. I don't know how I can prove that to you, but I know that I can lose a couple of million if I'm wrong. So that's really all I got. They're not going to come here.
No, I wouldn't expect someone to walk in the door, but I thought you were going to give us some type of engineer's analysis.
I'm sorry, I asked them for the most they had and what they had, and they haven't been asked for that, I guess, before. They gave me everything they could. They spent days on this. They had one of their people just dedicated to me, talking back and forth for email. I've got on the phone, you know, trying to get this to the point where people can understand, okay, what is it, how does it work, what's it supposed to do? But I didn't ask them to do a big sales pitch and get into it, and I can provide more. I'm not refusing you that by any means. I don't want to wait a month to do it, frankly, but I can provide you more. If you want a sales pitch, I'll have them write something up, give them what they give to other people and send it to you. But, you know, if you choose to approve the cultivation, you can make a contingent on that. But I'd like to see the board deliver it.
Yeah. Okay. I think I know Mr. Fleshman, the architect here, and so I'm sure he's an experienced person, and he's I think the two sentences here in his report or his letter to you on the subject. So the ClO2 system will be the odor control within the facility. There will be no direct general discharge of ventilation unless it is filtered. And so you're going to have the ClO2 and you're going to have the filters on top of that.
That's the law, by the way. Anything that discharges has to be filtered. In this case, it would just be the bathrooms, but even those have to be filtered. You turn on the bathroom fan, it has to go through a filter.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. And you also sent us a document which you produced on water usage and so forth. Where did you get the estimated water usage number for 2,800 gallons per day?
I calculated the number of months I expected to operate in a typical year and the amount of water consumed by each plant that I expect to grow, because I have an expectation of the type of plant I'm going to grow. And I multiply it out, and it comes to about 2,800. If I do bigger plants, you can double it. But I think the most interesting part of the research was finding out that farms can use 100,000 gallons a day until they do it, for 3 months in a row. Then they need to get a special permit. I mean, the amount of water in the aquifer is vast, and the amount of water you're allowed to draw is quite reasonable. And I think there would be no way that we could draw anything like what a subdivision would draw. And I think I compared it to a 40-unit subdivision, which this land could sustain, and it was like 4 times more water being drawn by that. So I found no evidence that our aquifer is lacking in any way. There's no report on file with the state, and I would turn it around and say, I've tried to prove a negative. If anyone has a report saying that there is, I'd love to see it.
So, other comments from the... Yes, Steve.
Can I make a comment? I think what would help is having someone from a position of authority with citations, because there's reference to engineered plans, but they're not engineered. This is just a progress print with some information overlaid on top of it from an unspecified individual. Same thing with this report here. There's no citations. We don't know where this information is coming from. I don't think that there's necessarily any way for us to verify that the chlorine dioxide system is going to work or not, because I understand that it's going above and beyond, but there's nothing that's lending credence that this is going to function for this industry, for this purpose, for this site with these conditions.
Again, I'm going to have to renew my objection to Mr. Conley participating in this. It's been established last time that he's recused.
Yeah, he's participating as a member of the board.
I understand. Having said that, for the record, we can revert to standard odor control technology and let the chips fall where they may, and I'll add ClO2 on my own. I mean, you don't need to prove it or like it. CCC tells you what the minimums are, and that's what they demand. If they come down to write me a ticket, they're going to go by the amount of odor they sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if I do it like everybody else does it, chances are they're going to sense something. So,
Yes, sir. I'm back. Who are you? Who are you?
What I just heard that, what
Who
was
are you?
just stated here, Nelson Dupuy with Brookfield. So would that be acceptable to the board if maybe a substandard system was used? I mean, making the statement that I can just go back to whatever CCC approves, is that what's good for our town? Is that, I mean, you're here to protect us from what we're afraid of, basically. And we're just trying to get clear and unafraid. That's a word.
Right.
Okay, we just need to understand it. And, you know, honestly, I don't know most of you in the room, including the applicant. It has nothing to do with trust or anything of the sort, but what we did ask for was a presentation from someone who, outside of us or the applicant, who could come and, on a professional level, give us some answers in terms of how the system would work, its reliability, and what it can do to alleviate. In this case, odor is the big problem. So it's hard for us to go away tonight feeling like we're satisfied. And again, it's not here to when you read what you were making a decision on the previous applicant who was here for something else. I mean, we're trying to make a decision as a town if this is good for us and the residents. And, you know, you have to have, you know, I think a higher level of confidence at this point. That's just doesn't seem to be there. But I do have a couple of other questions very quickly, just so I can understand the presentation. What is a valve? I didn't see. I don't know when these were uploaded or downloaded, but I haven't seen it. What is a valve? Is that a point of release of the chemical, whatever chemical it's using to kill the odor? Because that's what that's called. And how is this how is the greenhouse vented? Is it a series of fans around the greenhouse? I mean, in summer, and we all know what a greenhouse turns into outside. How do they keep the temperatures down? I assume it's by blowing air out, but I haven't seen anything that tells me yet how that's happening. And if that's happening, does that mean there's charcoal filters on every fan around the vertical wall? Or is there a central system trying to filter the air? There's a lot of air in that greenhouse that needs to be filtered.
Sure. Okay. Why don't we let the applicant address those questions?
I think he did answer some of those questions already.
Yes, he did. But
So the valve,
A valve is what the gas passes through on its way to being released. So each valve will control a zone, and then there'll be heads in the zone. And think of a sprinkler system, I guess, and it'll push it out that zone. So yes, this greenhouse, like all greenhouses that I'm aware of, will have exhaust fans, but unlike most, it'll have air conditioning as well. The CLO2 is meant to not just supplement, but almost obviate the charcoal filters. Yes, there are filters on every fan. However, by the time the air gets to them, we want to see all of the odor particles destroyed prior to being exhausted. So they'll go through the charcoal filter having been neutralized already. That's the goal. That's the plan. That's what they would tell you. Could they be here? But I have to be honest, I'm not entirely sure that I couldn't bring in all these folks and they could tell you all sorts of things about this system, and then there'd just be another objection raised or another question about their veracity because they're trying to sell me the system. You know, I'm the guy putting the money out. I spent some time talking to these people. I actually bothered to fly out and meet these people and look them in the eye and hear them. I've followed them around a little bit. I believe them. I have talked to people who've used them. They're believers. I mean, but anything that's said is just sales. Come here and sell all day long. It doesn't mean you're going to believe anyone I bring. So I revert back to my position. It's not substandard to follow the law. The CCC has determined how to filter the air, and everybody does it that way. And some people don't have any odor problems, and some people do. And I want to be one of the ones that doesn't, so I'm adding this other layer. Now, if it doesn't work, there's still the charcoal. There's still what everybody else uses. And that might get me in trouble, and that's my problem, frankly. It'll be yours for a short time, and then it'll be mine for a long time because they'll shut me down. So, honestly, it's a greenhouse. CLO2 is the only thing I can conceive of that could keep a greenhouse from emitting odor. I don't care how many charcoal filters you have. It's just a greenhouse. You've got to destroy the odor before it leaves the greenhouse. You've got to prevent it from leaving the greenhouse. And this is what does that. And if I'm wrong, you'll have a couple of months of discomfort, and I'll be out a couple of $1 million and we'll grow tomatoes. But at the end of the day, there's really very little more I can tell you about this system, and there's very little more they can tell you because I pumped them, and they're not used to selling it. The line to get these people services is long, and it could, in fact, delay my entire project waiting for them to come and install it. It's literally that much demand for it because people are starting to wise up. This is the cure to the cannabis problem.
And this is coming from overseas, too.
It's manufactured in Australia. It's distributed by Affinity, which is in America, but Affinity is like 4 guys. And up until a couple of years ago, they did a big business with, like I said, hospitals and chip manufacturers. But now that the cannabis companies are realizing the way to kill the odor and to prevent these problems is to use the CLO2, it took me 6 months just to get them to do a quote. I was amazed that I got them to do this in a month, but they put a guy on it and gave me a couple of days. I was very grateful for that. I'm sorry that it doesn't meet your standard, but it does tell you everything you need to know. And beyond that, we're just making promises that can't be kept unless it's true. If it's not true, then I'm done. I put it all on this.
Karen, do you?
I just have a question. He did say he was interested in following the law. Then why, at the very beginning of this process, was this a residential driveway, which he used an RDA versus a notice of intent, which would have had a DEP oversight?
I'm sorry, Karen, but this is not the Conservation Commission.
Okay, but he didn't follow a cease and desist, no curb cut?
Yeah, that's an issue for the Conservation Commission. It's not something that we cover here.
Is the scenic road permit an issue for the planning board? Because under state law, a scenic road to cut down the trees, you need to appear before the planning board to get a special permit, and that is state law.
Is that?
Did he come before you for that?
Did he cut down trees on the right of way?
Yes.
On the right of way for?
Yes.
On your property or on town property?
I don't cut trees on town property.
I'm just asking the question.
It's just more noise. I'm done with the noise. I'm going to move on from that. I'm not going to address that issue. It's in court.
I don't know, I just wish I had seen, plain and simple, a brochure from the company.
I wish I had them right here.
No, not the people, you're not going to, just a brochure from the company.
Or references. Citations.
Because that's a key component. And I understand if you went into the commercial district, we wouldn't be sitting here.
We couldn't be sitting here. The only place you can cultivate is in the rural residential. There's always going to be someone who lives there that doesn't want it. But
I understand that. And I already spoke at our last meeting. I think you're as close to commercial land as anybody can get.
Yeah. I don't know what the next applicant's going to face, but if my property doesn't work, I don't know where you're going to ever have cultivation. It's just a continuation of ban.
And by the way, you know where I live. Anybody else, everybody else, well, prevailing winds go in my direction. So I'm...
Well, may they always be clean, because I live 600 feet away.
Yeah.
And I don't like the smell, by the way.
Yeah. Nor do I, but I have it in my house, next door.
I don't.
I do.
Gentlemen and lady, I don't know what else that we could really provide, if we haven't, and I think we've talked about the issues several times. I'm at a loss to suggest.
How does this board document, measure odor?
The CCC does. You file a complaint, if it's real, they come down with a meter and they measure the odor specifically. There are levels you're allowed to have and levels you aren't. I mean, that's when you get into violation.
So there is such a thing as a meter to measure odors?
Yeah.
Actually, I would contest that. The CCC does not go around measuring odors.
Sorry.
I mean, I think there are some ways to quantify odors, but what really happens in Massachusetts is, if municipal residents complain, then actions are taken in various ways depending on the circumstances.
Or maybe this board would like to put a condition that we don't have to wait till the residents complain. Maybe our zoning enforcement officer goes over there with a meter and measures smell and says, hey, you're approaching a level that we don't.
Nothing's stopping anyone from going anywhere on public public grounds with a meter.
I feel like that's what he's trying to do by putting in this system.
I know he is.
I agree, he doesn't have great paperwork, and we really wish he had paperwork, but.
Yeah, Maureen?
Well, he can only put it in the best system that he can put in. If it becomes a nuisance, then there is a pathway for dealing with nuisance. But I don't think that's the issue. I think for you guys, it's more looking at this building, and does this building belong there, and sort of make a decision. But like, this particular topic, I don't think you're gonna get anywhere. If you don't go, I mean, if you want to understand if this product is working, go find a facility that's using it and talk to their board of health. And just make the call. I mean, I'd be happy to do that, but it's not my purview to kind of preemptively look at nuisance. We expect you guys to do your best to prevent it from happening. And my board's only going to get involved when it is a problem. So we can't dictate what he uses.
And to my point is, when do we know there's a problem? Because I may have a different odor control mechanism than somebody else.
It's like a reasonable person at the property line, right? So the agent would go out and get the property line, and if he or she detects it in a way that a reasonable person would find that to be a nuisance, then that's how it's done. Is it completely zero at times? No. I mean, people have cookouts, right? They have backyard fires.
There's no doubt.
So some people are bothered by that, right? Like, so you have to just think about it in terms of, is it a nuisance where, it's now a threat to public health, it's going to be problematic for the employees that are working in the building? That's probably the bigger concern.
I mean, we've all been to Hannaford and smelled it. We're trying to get.
Yeah.
He doesn't want that smell either.
I don't know Hannaford, but I go to Big Y, it smells like sewage. Right?
He does do that. He does do that.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, just keep that in mind. Like, I actually, from my own personal opinion, I'm happy that he's looking at this type of technology.
I'm not unhappy he's looking at it. I'm just
That's all I'm going to say.
trying to put some teeth in it.
Okay.
Can I just close my part of this by saying, look, I believe me, I get it. It's a big part of the business plan that no one smelled. I had to be convinced of that, so I did my road trips and I was convinced of it. Okay, so at the end of the day, we have a cannabis bylaw and we have a mass law, and everybody knows this stuff smells. Everybody knows it smells, but we allow it. We allow greenhouses, we allow outdoor grows. That smells a lot. We have taken the greenhouse concept and added a layer of protection formerly really only possible in a factory setting. So it can still be a greenhouse, and yet it's going to have odor control beyond the facility you're talking about. And almost every facility in Massachusetts, this will be state-of-the-art. I don't know of another greenhouse. I don't know of very many greenhouses in Mass, but I don't know of another greenhouse using CLO2. And I only know of a couple of facilities, and they won't let me in. It's a competitive business. I had to go to California for a reason. I wanted to see it at scale. These guys have 10 acres.
Well, there's a hand raised.
There's a hand.
There's also a remote hand up.
Okay. Yeah, who's on? Was it Chris? Chris?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So I just want to remind you that at the last meeting, former select board member Tom Regan suggested instead of focusing on the system itself, just focus on the odor. So that way the system itself becomes a moot point, because all we're trying to do is control the odor. And I think that would be a better path to go on. It's funny, when I heard the chair of the Board of Health say to call other Board of Health members, it reminded me of a time when I managed an all-ages club, and we would get noise complaints from the police department, from the neighbors calling the police. And there was this one time that the neighbors called the police, and the music at the club was too loud. And the police force sites went to business was closed. So I don't think we can really rely on complaints from neighbors to be 100% accurate all the time. I think that the planning board should really focus on, this is the level that we're going to accept. If you exceed this level, then that's a problem. And we don't don't care what system you're using. Because the end goal should be resolving the odor and not really focus on penalizing the applicant on which system that he's using. Because we shouldn't care about how we got to our destination, as long as we got there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Yes, sir.
I have a question about the terminology greenhouse. Everybody is saying greenhouse. And in our bylaws, a greenhouse has no light. Okay? It turns it into net one factory industrial building.
That's correct. It is an indoor grow facility, but it uses some ambient light to augment
Which
it.
requires then fire suppression plans and an engineer's stamp on the building, on the building plans. The F1.
I'm not going to address issues
According
that
to
aren't
state law,
germane to
the
land use.
F1
This is
industrial
a
requires an
building
engineer's
permit issue. This is taken out by the building inspector, the licensed engineer, and the licensed architect. Whatever they say, that's what I do.
Yeah, okay.
Local governments cannot supersede state law.
Okay.
Yeah.
The building supplies, they're already delivered on the side of the road.
And a bear came out of the woods. I know, I've heard.
And I don't care about the
Yeah, let's, yes, sir.
I'm going to tell you what to focus on.
Who are you? Name, please.
Alex Olson,
Thank you.
33 Onestell Road. Is the board aware of the requirements for a building of the size for PE stamp for HVAC, electrical, fire, chemical?
Yeah, those are issues that are taken up by the building inspector. If the plans don't have those, the building inspector rejects the plan.
The Massachusetts has a requirement for boards and yourself to accept buildings of the size only if there is a PE stamp for any engineered system of this size.
Some Fusions is not on the property. Some Fusions is planning to lease the property. We're reviewing the floor plans as part of the bylaw review for land use and appropriate location. I don't want to get into any of the technical stuff that's better left to professional or the building inspectors. I keep here.
So then who needs to bring it in? Keith Realty needs to bring in the engineer's stamp?
No, I think the point is that this is a special permit hearing is a question about land use. It's not a question about state building code compliance. That's a matter for the building inspector.
Are you aware of the requirement?
I didn't understand the gentleman's question.
Who wants to grill the board on their own?
No, are you aware of the requirement?
We're not aware of all the details of the state law.
Where do you need to? Where do you need to?
And I would just point out, as I'm sure the board is aware, Chapter 48, in fact, it says that no zoning ordinance or bylaw shall regulate or restrict the use of materials or methods of construction of structures regulated by the state building code. So it's clear, there is supposed, by statute, there's a separation between the planning board's role in regulating land use and the building inspector's role in enforcing and determining compliance under the building code.
Right. And the building code takes precedence in Massachusetts state law, as I understand it. Dave, did you have something? Okay.
J.D. Holcraft here, 26 Allen Road, South Brookfield. You know, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. We got a lawsuit by our applicant.
Okay.
No, hang on.
We can't discuss that.
Okay, that's fine. This is a special permit, okay? And I've talked to other towns on the other planning boards, okay? And they said, you guys should not even be entertaining this special permit when he's going after, the conservation can't even go up and do their job. Okay, now how are you going to give them a special permit when the conservation can't even go up for his project, and then how can you do that? And then hang on. And then he files trespass charges against them.
Okay, these are details of a court case. These are details of a court case.
This is all part of the special permit.
No, sir.
Oh, yes, it is.
No, sir. No, sir, it is not.
You can't be going forward.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to sit down.
All right.
What's your address?
26 Allen Road, South Brookfield. So do your diligence, you guys, okay?
Yeah. Okay. I think we've talked a lot about this. I take the Board of Health Chair's point, well, that not only does this plan for odor mitigation exceed what is being required by the CCC for licensure, but, you know, whether it works or not is going to be an issue for the applicant, and there are ways to mitigate that. But if he believes that this is going to work, he can risk his money and try it, certainly, provided he gets all the licensure and permits that he needs. Other issues that we haven't talked about here. Yes, sir, Mr. Dupuy.
Yeah, just one more comment. When you said it's going to be a problem for the applicant, if it doesn't work, it's going to be a problem for us in our everyday lives.
Short term.
At home.
Short term, because if it does become a problem for you, it gets taken away.
Let's say we're not here to try to say that. We're just trying to get information so you can make a decision whether this facility should be in town. And what do you need to make that decision?
To grow marijuana in Brookfield by right, you just have to be in the right spot to do it. That's what we're dealing with here. The location.
It's a special permit application regardless, though. So it's not by right.
If you're building a commercial district, you can do it. Right. So maybe I used the wrong term, okay? But so we're dealing with location, and we're trying to add safety measures on top of it.
Right. Yes, Mr.
Paul Ayers, Long Hill Road, Brookfield. Has the licensing authority granted your license yet?
It's still pending.
Yeah, I looked at the spreadsheet that was generated just recently. I think it was on Tuesday, and this application is the earliest one that's on the list. However, it's not prioritized or expedited, and over half of the applications on the list are prioritized or expedited. So it might be a while.
So we wouldn't grant the acceptance of it until they get a license, correct?
He would not be able to use a special permit until he got his license. Yes, Karen.
Well, I'm just going over your planning board bylaws for the marijuana facility.
Mhm.
It says that he needs to have a provisional license, and that he's provided a plan with adequate security measures to protect the health and safety of the public. And he's addressed issues of the vehicle and pedestrian. He didn't pay for one. He used a 2019 plan. It didn't address any traffic coming from Sturbridge, which that's where the GPS would direct people to come down and travel down the whole road, all the building supplies, different people coming. So I feel we really need him to do his own and not rely on one from 5 or 6 years ago, especially with all the construction of Tupelo Road and all the new homes up there.
Yeah.
Okay, and all the Amazon drivers that we didn't have since the pandemic. Okay? So I think that needs to be done. And the other thing, it said that, let's see, I've lost my place now. So I'll get back to them.
Okay.
But we did discuss those.
We did discuss
earlier meetings.
Right.
And certainly you can direct people to use 148 rather than come up over Molasses Hill Road, which is not a good road for that sort of thing anyway.
I think he commented on that already.
Yeah.
Stay off of Molasses Hill, sure.
Yeah.
But you waiving all these things is not in the public interest. And that was part of your
you know.
Well, we haven't decided we haven't decided what we're going to waive, if anything, yet.
If I can just address the one waiver request that I think was implicated by the last comment, regarding the requirement that the provisional license be issued, we would ask that that be waived. However, you know, and I think the reason why there's no prejudice to the board in waiving it is because the facility can't even begin construction until the provisional license is actually issued by the CCC. So nothing will move forward if that license isn't issued.
No, I'm sorry. I don't want to be accused of misrepresenting.
Oh, well, no, right, I should remember.
I can build that greenhouse and that metal building starting tomorrow with no involvement from you, no input from you, no advice from you or them as agricultural buildings under our bylaw. I want to be clear, I'm waiting. And it is a separate corporation that builds it, but that doesn't mean it's not a shady thing. I've owned the land for 20 years. The owner of the land will build the building because Sun Fusions will not own the building. Sun Fusions will lease the building. So it's appropriate for you, of course, to review the floor plans and the uses and the flow. That's all on your purview. I acknowledge that. But the construction, that's not entirely true. I could build it without any input from anyone, except the building inspector.
But I think most importantly, the facility can't operate as a cannabis establishment without the licenses being issued. And the provisional license is only the first step and still a very long process to actually having plants in there. But if the board was not willing to waive that requirement, we would just ask that it be issued with a condition such that as soon as the provisional license was issued, that the permit would become effective.
I don't think that prejudices anyone.
I think that's the way I would prefer to handle it, would be the latter.
I asked that the board not waive it, and the reason I asked that they not waive it is because the host community agreement doesn't comply with Massachusetts state law. I contacted the Attorney General about this, and state law, CMR 500, it must be compliant with all local bylaws at the time of signing, and it wasn't at the time of signing. So I asked the Attorney General's office about our bylaws, and they said state law takes precedence, and that our bylaws need to be amended because there's an error.
Do you have that document from the Attorney General's office?
No, that was just a speech. I do have some from the Cannabis Commission. That was just a conversation with them. I do have the laws, and I have some emails from the Cannabis Commission.
You know,
checking into.
Yeah, things like that, we really need to have them in writing because you're attributing this to the Attorney General's office. You know,
I can comment that even though the provisional license has not been issued yet, I do know that the CCC has reviewed the host community agreement and has deemed it compliant with state regulations.
Okay. All right. So, anything else? Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question.
Who are you?
Tara Fitzgerald, 39 Washington Road. My question is, was the original special permit about the cultivation on the property, which is considered manufacturing, and that is a no per the bylaws?
Right. He is the applicant has applied for cultivation and manufacturing. You have to decide whether we want to allow both of those to go together.
That would essentially be that's a waiver that they're asking in addition to the waiver about the provisional.
Yes, there are several waivers that we have to consider here.
Provisional was waived.
Yep.
We already waived that. At a former meeting, it was agreed that it's a hurdle.
We discussed it. We discussed it, but the actual waiving it is part of the final decision that we generate.
Ultimately, my question is, why do we have these bylaws in place that were just written for all these waivers to come up? I genuinely just don't know.
Yeah.
I just feel like these were put in place for a reason. They must have been voted on. I'm not
into politics or anything like that. I just am seeing a lot of requests for waivers in a rural residential area, and I live right down the street. Sir?
Yeah, I understand. And, we, one of the reasons that a lot of these, well, putting a waiver clause into a bylaw is kind of standard, but when we wrote this, the industry for cannabis was still very new here in Massachusetts, especially. So we didn't really know exactly how it was going to develop over time. In fact, the original focus was on retail shops, if you remember. So some aspects of the bylaw do kind of point towards that usage more than cultivation, although cultivation is mentioned to a significant degree. So, yeah, I expect that like all the other sections of the zoning bylaw, this will evolve over time to something that is more efficient and more effective for the community.
I'd like to clarify, there's only one waiver he's filing for, correct? Is the manufacturing?
No. There are several different aspects to that.
Like what?
Well, if there's more than one use on a property.
Well, yeah.
There's manufacturing in rural residential zone.
Which?
There's the requirement of having provisional license submitted before a special permit can be granted. There's one other.
Cultivation needs a special permit.
Oh, yes.
Well,
that's why we're here.
And then the manufacturing is prohibited.
Yeah, so, I mean,
He's asking for that.
in my opinion, he's at 2 per se, only because whether we grant him before or after, it doesn't really matter for the waiver of the
Whether you hand him the decision.
Yeah, well, you hand him the decision. That's here.
Final decision, in writing.
And if he doesn't get manufacturing, which we haven't talked about, but if he doesn't get manufacturing, there's only one waiver. It's the indoor.
There's only one special permit.
Yeah. And so the other waiver is the manufacturing. So it's not like a multiple things we're trying to like change. We're only looking at, in my eyes, like I said, 2 things. One is the actual application for the indoor grow/greenhouse, and second would be manufacturing. Everything else we're talking about is us trying to just get to some ground that we all understand, that the applicant is doing his due diligence. We're not trying to waiver anything. Like if we take his 2019 traffic, 2019 to now, can't be more than 10% added to that roadway. I sat there for an hour. I saw Mr. Chafee there. It's not much changed. So the stuff we look at, we appreciate what he's done for that stuff. I do think we should just jump into manufacturing. I think it'll be kind of quick, to be honest.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that when we close the public hearing and start deliberating on this.
Well, do you not want them involved in any of the?
No, the public hearing is for presentation of evidence and information, but the discussion or the deliberation on the question is the province and board members.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I can say something before we get too far past what was just said, we are asking, and I think this is consistent with the way the board has been discussing the matter, but we would ask that the use application for manufacturing and the use application for cultivation be dealt with as severable issues. So whether the board wants to do it as 2 separate votes or vote on it in a way where one could be approved but not the other, that would be our request. So that there could be an outcome, for instance, that the manufacturing could be denied but the cultivation approved.
Right. And that it's probably we have the ability to do that. We can, no matter what an applicant applies for, we decide to what extent their application is to be granted, if at all. Yes, Mr. Chafee.
Rich Chafee. I want to just clarify Mr. Gorman's comment that I was working on my property, not anywhere near Mr. Fromm's property. That I was on my property, loading an excavator, and he stopped by and we talked. So I just want to make that very clear.
If we threw a rock, we'd probably hit your property someplace.
I was not anywhere. I was on my property.
Yes, Dave.
Two questions. Where's all this water coming from? 2,800 gallons a day, is that what it was? Where's all that coming from? You haven't really discussed the water situation here.
Okay.
Have you?
Yes, we
Is
have,
it a well?
actually, yeah.
What's the answer? Just a quick answer.
The aquifer is more than adequate to provide that.
The second thing is, the applicant came here before this at a public meeting stating that he wants to have a grow and manufacturing, and you, Mr. Chairman, are stating that the public cannot weigh in on the manufacturing part of this public hearing? That's wrong. And I will challenge you on this.
In the public hearing, the public can say anything they want about...
You won't let them. You said you weren't going to let them.
No, that's not what I said.
Yeah, I know.
I said when I close the public hearing, when the public hearing is closed, at that point, the board members deliberate on...
But we can't talk at that point.
That's correct.
So we want to talk before you close.
People have already said, expressed feelings about manufacturing, but if there's anybody else here...
Well, maybe you should ask them to see if they have any more questions.
Has anything more about manufacturing, that's part of the application for this special permit. Anybody can ask the question about it.
So you're going to let us ask questions then?
That's what we've been doing.
Okay, well, okay, because earlier you said you weren't going to let the public. Even Chris questioned you on it, and you're going to sit there and tell me that you said no?
Dave, come on now.
Dave?
Come on now what? Because I'm calling out the truth?
No,
I'm calling out the truth.
It is the truth. Anybody can ask.
I heard what was said.
Application.
I heard what was said.
Yes, Ms. Leapak.
Just a procedural question. The notice that was published in the agenda has never stated manufacturing. So, the word of caution about how much.
Yeah, his application only says cultivation. The contention of the applicant, if I understand this correctly, is that the manufacturing aspect that he wishes to engage in is not really manufacturing as defined by the CCC. In fact, it is manufacturing as defined by the CCC.
Also, no application for manufacturing has been submitted.
So if we say that something is manufacturing, then as far as we're concerned here at the board, that's manufacturing. And if we don't want it, it doesn't happen. Other questions?
That was kind of confusing what you just said.
I'm going to give it a try. What he's saying is he believes it's not manufacturing. So the way he submitted it, it's not manufacturing.
So he didn't submit the manufacturing application. So
What he's believing is not manufacturing. Yes, that's what he believes. He believes it's not manufacturing.
But is that what you're saying? He didn't submit a manufacturing application, so there is no manufacturing application to approve.
Essentially, yes. Yeah. You know, he does, in his submissions, there is a statement on what Sun Fusions believes manufacturing to be. And we have to decide whether we agree with that or not. Yes, Ms.
I don't know if that's the case. I mean, you can't supersede state law.
I'm sorry.
You can't supersede the...
No, I realize that. I realize that. So, Terry?
I have another question. I just want to go back to fire concerns. I was briefly reading the document that was submitted. I don't know when that went in, but so a greenhouse by the bylaw is it's no longer considered a greenhouse if they're using the grow lights. my concern is also the grow lights present a fire hazard in themselves. Would they not?
These are LED lights, so they're very low energy overall. It's not like a halogen or whatever.
Okay. And then the shades that are going to be used, are those fire retardant, or what's the likelihood of them going up and making things worse if there's a fire? And then my last question was, if there's a fire and these plants burn, there's a high concentration of marijuana in the air. How does that impact the neighbors? Would there be an evacuation?
Well, yeah, I mean, these are good questions, but, you know, you have to weigh that against the likelihood of something like that happening. To have a fire, you have to have a source of ignition, too.
You mentioned also something was explosive. It was actually...
And that is a machine that he has in the head house, not in the greenhouse itself. And it's as it was explained to me, it was a small explosion at most that would be contained in the room in the head house where the machine was located. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a pressure explosion. Though.
It's a pressure. It's not a fire. It's more like a pressure vessel bursting.
Anything is at a high enough temperature that this is not considered an explosive, fire explosive.
This is, okay.
The pressure event.
Yeah.
But the CO2 is going to be going into the greenhouse, correct? Because that's where it's supposed to be diminishing the smell.
Yeah.
So
and in
there.
And in the head house, too.
And the head house, yes. Yeah. Is there any, the low lights, they won't cause, you know...
I can address it.
Sure.
I'm
happy to address. Yeah, absolutely. I will tell you what I know. ClO2 is potentially explosive at concentrations over 10%. The concentration that we're using is between 1 and 3 millionths of 1% in the greenhouse. The only place you can have an explosion is if you reach 10%. There are shut-off mechanisms within the machine which will shut the machine down at 5% before it becomes explosive if something does go wrong. The maximum amount of ClO2 present in the machine at any time is 1.5 ounces. It is not enough to cause a catastrophic event of any kind. It's far less than a gallon of gasoline would cause. So, no, it's not flammable. The lights cannot ignite it, and that's not going to be a thing. But if the greenhouse burns, it's going to burn the plastic off and it's going to be gone. I doubt the green plants will be part of that event. There's not enough heat. There's nothing to ignite enough heat to set an acre of green plants on fire that's being proposed.
Okay. Yes, sir.
What's conscious to them? I'd like to know, using a few of his acres for this, what is he going to do with the rest of his acres? I'm sure he's not going to be able to build residential housing in there because no one's going to want to live by a marijuana facility. And I also want to make sure that he doesn't come back a year from now and say, Jesus, I got all this land and I can't use it for anything else. I'd like to expand my manufacturing, whatever he's calling this thing. So I'd like to know, let him talk, what he plans to do with the rest of his land. Thank you.
Okay. Pass.
If I can comment on that quickly.
Yes, sir.
And actually, I'd like to comment on the prior comment as well. And just to state that, as indicated in the architect's letter, regardless of any theoretical fire risks in the facility will be built in compliance with the building and fire code. But in response to the last gentleman's question, I think it's important to remind the board that what might be done with the rest of the land is not germane to the decision. The benefit of leaving the land in a natural state cannot be considered as a reason to deny the permit. I know there have been previous comments on other nights suggesting that it should be left natural, that's a better benefit to the community. The board cannot deny the permit based on the ground that another location might be more appropriate. if this location meets the bylaw requirements.
Thank you. Sir?
I'd like to know what's the reason for not putting in fire suppression? Pretty standard within
Whatever the building code requires will be done.
Okay, so if the building code requires a fire suppression system, it'll be, okay. Yes, Steve?
A point of clarification on that, the document provided by the architect states that since this building is agricultural and there is not sufficient water or pressure available at the site, sprinklers would not be required by MGL 148, Section 26G. So it seems like by law, if there's not sufficient water or pressure, they don't need a sprinkler system.
Is that for the 7,500 square foot manufacturing building or the one that is the larger building?
Both, actually.
Okay, because the larger building does require, because it's not agriculture, it's a cultivation, and it's not a greenhouse.
So that state law, the state law he mentioned, I just want to clarify, that's public water. Public water.
There again,
There's no public water.
he can't get a building permit. That's beyond us.
But the 7,500, he's not over 7,500 according to his plans.
His greenhouse is,
Yeah, greenhouse is not a building.
but it's not really a greenhouse according to our bylaws. It meets the standard of an F1 facility, and that does require a fire suppression.
I don't see it like that.
It's not up to us.
Yep.
Having a hard enough time getting past this.
Yeah. No, part of the problem there is that there are different standards for different definitions of what constitutes one thing or another, in this case greenhouse, by different parts of the law. Yeah, so, and, it can be a conundrum, but if he...
By our bylaws, though. I'm just going by our
Right, but, if it's required, if it's actually required by the state building code, he has to put it in. Yes, Jonah?
So it's just my understanding that when the marijuana zoning bylaws were voted on and approved, the town was approving to have rules and regulations surrounding cultivation and manufacturing. We're not inherently approving this type of project in a rural residential area. So based on numerous comments from residents over the past few meetings, even ones who don't even live in the neighborhood, the majority of residents oppose having this type of project in a zoned rural residential neighborhood. And the criteria that you just reviewed for the gentleman earlier, this project, all those criteria, this project does not check any of those boxes. That building up there, the applicant refers to it as a facility. It's an industrial building. We're talking valves, we're talking, odor control, we're talking mechanisms, we're talking manufacturing. It's not appropriate for a rural residential area.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Dupree.
You mentioned if the plant's in operation and there'd be some type of odor control
Monitoring system or procedure, is that part of the special permit to write up that procedure or requirements, or is that under the Board of Health or?
No. No, we can require certain odor control, but the odor control is generally required by the zoning bylaw anyway.
No, but I'm talking about the, whether or not odor, if it is released from the facility. Someone mentioned standing on the property line and somebody mentioned something else. Is there a standard or a requirement or?
That would be with the zoning enforcement officer, correct?
No, it's subjective.
And are those rules already in place?
Yes.
So how is it So the Board of Health would be able to tell us right now what to expect that we might be exposed to.
I can't comment on that, but
So is it no
At
odor,
the end
or
of the
some
day-
odor, or barbecue, or skunk, or what it is?
At the end of the day, you can put in a number of different mechanisms or systems to control something like odor. If the end product is not acceptable, in that it's noisome, it's bothering people, either locally or at a distance, then this facility would be shut down until it's either fixed or if there is no fix, which is less likely, but still, if there is no fix, then it's taken out of service.
And who enforces that?
It's enforced on a couple of different levels. It's enforced here in town by the zoning enforcement officer, and then also on the state level by the Cannabis Control Commission, which has the ability to do inspections and even unannounced spot inspections. Yes, Maureen?
nuisance is the Board of Health Authority.
I'm sorry, what?
Nuisance belongs to...
Oh, nuisance, yes, yep. Nuisance, certainly, yeah. There, okay, yeah, we dovetail on a lot of these things. Okay. Other questions on things that haven't been mentioned yet? I don't want to keep going around and around. I think we've got a pretty good idea of what people's opinions are and what they're looking for here and so forth.
Can I get a statement from Kim, who couldn't be here?
Kim Simon, sure.
Okay. So she wanted me to go over, I know the information statement or bylaws about the zoning act of the general laws, and it's for the planning board specific. It's to promote the general welfare of the town of Brookfield, to protect the health and safety of its inhabitants, to encourage the most appropriate use of the land within town, to retain natural resources, to diversify local economy and tax base, to maintain the agriculture and rural character of the town, to reduce the hazard from fire by regulating the location and use of buildings and the open spaces around them, and to protect and conserve the value of property. She feels like the abutters and residents don't feel he has demonstrated legitimate plans to minimize adverse impacts. There's been enough public opposition to this. We really haven't seen much public support. We were able to get 300 signatures just on one weekend against this. If they put the burden on the residents and the abutters to say what is wrong and why have a planning board if they're not going to accurately represent and protect public interest.
Well, I'm a supporter, and I'd like to close my statements by saying that about 95% of the people at the town meeting voted for this bylaw, and the majority of people in Brookfield voted for cannabis. So the people that are represented here are a very small, vocal minority, and there are people that support this. They don't come out. You know as well as I do. People are motivated by negativity, not positivity. So I don't ask people to come out and subject themselves to this. I'm not looking for a fight. I'm just trying to follow the bylaw, and I think we've established our record. I think we've submitted everything we possibly can, and I'm going to rest it.
I would just like to add that while, of course, public participation is a critical part of this process, the determination of whether to issue a special permit or to deny it is not up for vote by the public. It's a determination made solely by this board, and whether a majority or a minority of the public supports it, it is not determinative. It is not a criteria in the bylaws. It should not be taken into consideration by the board.
We thoroughly understand that.
That's the mission statement for it.
That's the gift.
Yeah, this is our town, government by the people.
That was just a mission statement, though, that I just read.
and it incorporates a lot of different aspects, as you might see there, too. And
But I do want to point out at that particular town meeting, it only passed by approximately 50 people.
Incorrect. I have the video.
Okay.
You can hear the 3 or 4 voices
They were
against.
told they had to vote because the town would be sued.
I never said it. I don't know.
No, I didn't say you said it.
Okay.
I didn't say you said it.
All right. What do you think, Kev?
Done, Kevin?
Done.
I got another question, Kevin, if I may.
Sure.
What other information are you going to ask from the applicant? Everybody seems to not be happy with what's been presented tonight. So as a board, what other information are you going to ask the applicant?
We can't ask the applicant for any more information once we close the public hearing. That's it.
Are you going to close it tonight?
That's our intention.
Okay, so you're not going to ask for any more information then?
Unless the board decides otherwise.
Because you all seem like you weren't happy with what was presented tonight. Now you're going to close it?
Well, it's also if he can ask, if he doesn't want to provide it, then we can close it anyways. Not that we need
Mr.
to ask.
Chair, I say we close the public part of the hearing here.
Okay. Mr. Gorman, how do you feel?
You made a motion, I'll second.
Okay, so it has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing portion of this procedure. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying your name and aye.
Bruce, aye.
Chris, aye.
Jeff, aye.
And Kevin, aye. Okay. All right.
What happened to the other message?
She had to leave. She had another appointment.
Who's Stephen?
So we can't really deliberate at this point if we want Lisa to take part because she missed about an hour of the discussion. She has to review that first. So I'm going to suggest that we have another meeting next week, if that's possible, to begin deliberations on this. How are people's calendars for next Thursday? It'll be, I think, the 12th?
Thursday, I'm good. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'm out of town.
You can't do Thursdays.
We could try Wednesday. I'm coming back from Chicago Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, Wednesday? It's a little bad. It's not good for Lisa, though. Let's see, how about Tuesday?
Well, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm in Chicago.
You're in Chicago. Okay.
Can't even do it Monday, can you? 48 hours? I guess you can't.
Fairly. How about, let me see what's on the calendar. Let's see what's on the calendar. We'll try and do that. So we were closed. We were closed at just shy of 9 o'clock. I think it was 8:59, 8:58.
I'm sorry.
We were closed. We closed the public hearing at what? 8:58.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can actually close the meeting tonight. You're going to do an agenda with a date.
What's that?
I said, we can close this meeting. You're going to do an agenda with a date.
Well, yeah. I just want to find out what's good for everybody before we go on with that. Oh, okay.
Or you can do it tomorrow night, make us all happy. Not have to go to town meeting.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Damn place isn't open on Fridays. Okay, how about... Tuesday, the 17th.
I'm in.
Very good. Does that work for you, Jeff?
Yep.
Bruce?
I guess so.
Tuesday, 6:30? Yeah, let's say 6:30 on the 17th. Okay. It's my wedding anniversary, but what the hell?
Anniversary.
6:30. All right. So that's specifically for deliberation on this topic.
So are we continuing this public hearing?
No.
Deliberation, or we close it?
We closed the public hearing, so now it's deliberation. Once we come to a decision, we have 2 weeks to file it with the town clerk. So, okay. And while we're on the subject of meetings, our July meeting normally would be on July 2nd. Is that a good date for everybody?
Yep.
Okay.
Good day for me.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Lisa is done with her training by then. So next regular meeting will be 7/2/25 at 6:30. All right. Let's go back to our agenda for tonight, just to see that we cover everything.
New business.
Oh, yes, new business, right.
I'm done anyway. Just my hearing's closed.
So Steve, you're back in on this.
See ya.
Continuing the new
See you,
business. Take care, Bruce. See you, Bruce. We have election of planning board officers for fiscal year '26. And the officers that we have been elected are chair, vice chair, and clerk. We also have the provision for a treasurer, but we don't handle that much money, so I just pass it off to, since we have the all-boards clerk, have the clerk do the turnovers and whatnot. Currently, I'm chair, Chris is vice chair and clerk. The clerk's job, because we have an all-boards clerk to help with the clerical stuff, it's really just to certify when we sign a document that the decision that's in the document was in fact what we voted on, and that the votes as recorded were correct. So I will entertain a nomination of someone to chair the board and this will begin with our first meeting, and actually it will begin with the next meeting. Yeah, the next meeting, regardless of when it was scheduled. So that would be the one on the 16th.
I make a motion to approve Kevin Hartwell as the chair of our board.
What a surprise.
I'll second that.
Okay, so are there any additional nominations?
I'll make a motion to nominate Chris Foreman as vice chair.
Well, but I mean for chair.
Oh, for chair.
For chair. Or is there or shall we just close nominations?
We can close.
Okay.
Motion to close.
Okay. All right, it's been, Kevin Urkel has been moved to serve as chair of the planning board for FY '26. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying your name and I.
Steve, aye.
Chris, aye.
Jeff, aye.
And Kevin, aye. Okay. Okay, so is there a nomination for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Chris Gorman as vice chair.
I will second that nomination. Okay. CG, that's vice chair. Any other vice chair nominations? Well, then we'll assume that the nominations are closed then. All in favor of electing Chris Gorman as vice chair, please signify by saying your name and I.
Steve, aye.
Chris, aye.
Jeff, aye.
Kevin, aye. All right. All right. And then for clerk, is there a nomination for clerk of the board?
I'll nominate Chris.
Should we try to split it up?
I think you'd prefer it, wouldn't you? Or would you?
To split it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd make a motion to nominate Steven.
I will second that nomination.
There you go.
Motion to nominate Chris dies for lack of a second. No further nominations? Okay, well then, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of electing Steve as clerk of the board, please signify by saying your name and I.
Steve, aye.
Chris, aye.
Jeff, aye.
And Kevin, aye. Congratulations, Steve, and welcome.
No, thank you.
Okay. What else there under new business? The select board has proposed to cut the hours allotted for our all boards clerk from 10 to 5 per week. Remember, we used to have like 15 per week, and then it was reduced to 10, and now they've decided to reduce it to 5, saying that that's enough time to do minutes and that everything else should be handled by someone else.
No, I disagree. I think it should stay at 10.
I agree.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Especially because we're not even caught up.
yeah, we're getting there, but you know,
still.
when I started on this board, we had a clerk who handled all the stuff that had to do with posting legal notices and all of the financial transactions, as I mentioned earlier. So it would be nice if we could get back to that. I'm not going to press Holly to do things too quickly, but we're making progress. I think she's doing a great job thus far, and I don't have a copy of the warrant budget for FY26 yet. So
I have a copy of it.
You have a copy. Well,
I can tell you the numbers effectively.
Yeah.
If that would help. So the planning board, the all boards clerk the funds were 15,000 for the prior year, and they're being cut to 10,000 approximately. I believe. I'm sorry. It was 15 to 10 to 5. I believe.
really, just like the hours, then it was cut.
Because it was a 15-hour a month, a 15-hour a week position prior to the all boards clerk being reinstated in March of this year. So they cut it down to 10 hours at that point. And with this last revision that the select board made 2 weeks ago, they cut it from 10 to 5. So I believe it stands at $5,000 now.
Okay, all right. Well,
I believe.
In any event, that should be something that we want to look at in town meeting tomorrow night and question. Because as I said at that select board meeting, there is more than one way to burden your constituents. And if you don't have the people available to give them service to the level that you might expect from a volunteer elected board with a employed clerk, then, everything is not going to work out for them. Most of our applicants are residents of the town. And they may be applying for something that involves a larger company coming in and using their land for something, but still, the applicant is basically the landowner here. So that's something that we have to look at, and it's unfortunate that we don't have all of we haven't had the numbers for the budget for next year sooner. But not much we can do about that.
Something to note on that is that the all boards clerk position is shared between the Planning Board, Conservation Commission, and Zoning Board of Appeals.
Yeah.
So 5 hours a week to cover those 3 boards. Granted, Planning Board and Conservation Commission. I'm chair of Conservation Commission as of a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I think we haven't even had time to adjust to 10 hours a week for an all boards clerk. So I'll be speaking on behalf of the Conservation Commission and Planning Board tomorrow.
Okay. All right. And we will support for sure. The other thing that I discovered when I looked at the warrant articles that were posted at the post office was that the zoning bylaw amendment that we had submitted for the warrant didn't make it onto the warrant. And
that was the auxiliary.
The town administrator took responsibility for that, apologized. And I was saying to Steve earlier, I think that it may have been because when he sent out the request for articles, I might have been the first one who replied, because our article was ready to go. I just filled out the form and sent it back to him. And he even passed it on to the town council to vet it. And town council came back to him, I know, because he forwarded their comment to me. So it was there, but other things happened and didn't get onto the warrant. So not something that people's hair has to be set on fire about. If the question comes up, somebody comes to us and wants to do this, state law applies. Our zoning bylaw is superseded by the state law in this case. We'd just like to bring it into conformance with that and to allow us to do the few other little things that are optional in the state law. But we can't do those without writing the zoning bylaws. But if you look at the warrant and you don't see it, that's why it's not there.
Do you plan on resubmitting this warrant article for special? Or?
If we have a special town meeting in the fall, we'll submit it again. We will have to hold another public hearing because it's a requirement, because that will be more than 6 months since the last public hearing we had on this. But other than that, we don't necessarily have to change anything. Okay. So did we miss anything here? We did this next meeting date and time. Y'all got the Citizen Planner Training Collaborative piece that I forwarded to. Okay, yeah, please avail yourself of any of that training because it's really very well done. And that's pretty much it. Unless there's something else, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 9:16.
I second it.
Okay. Motion to second to adjourn. All in favor, please signify by saying your name and aye.
Steve, aye.
Chris, aye.
Jeff, aye.
And Kevin, aye. And we stand adjourned at 9:16.
Not like the form of the Cubs game or anything, no.
Watch the White Sox get blessed by the Pope.
Flying your hair, go to Schaumburg, and then
What did you watch?
Watch the White Sox get blessed by the Pope. Thanks for...
Yeah, no, thank you.
Copy you on the email. My plan moving forward is for our fees to request a $75 application fee. I do want to do that so we can start looking of legal notices and also certified mailing of project. So we don't just chase applicants down. So when we do review our checklist, I'm going to send them application.
So when you say you go for it,
Yeah.
And I appreciate because some of these buildings, it's not business.
I know, and I'm just.
No, we mean that a private label, oh, Schaumburg, and then the vendors can get.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll get there.
Usually what do you put on this?
Once we can catch up on our backlog, I think we'll be in
You
a
don't get
position.
too much other than the conference room. Yeah.
27 different people trying to sell you something.
Right. Trying to convince you why the other guys are focusing on the way it is.
So it's like Shark Tank.
Exactly.
All right, well, looks like, you know, it's...
Because the building inspector was here. Everybody have a good evening.
Thanks, you too, all right.
Have a good one.
Thanks, you too. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
It'll be a good one.
Oh, yeah. All right, I'll see you tomorrow, Kevin.
Okay, Jeff, take care. Yeah, I agree, except one thing. Hey, Jake.